You've attended council hearings in person. You tuned into our televised proceedings on Channel 13. Now, you have the chance to listen to us on the radio as we demystify our work and the people who do it. This is not a council hearing. This is Hearing the Council with your host, Josh Gibson.
Thank you, deep voiced person with a funky backbeat. Indeed, this is not a council hearing. This is Hearing the Council. You can't have a government without a council, so you can't have a government radio station without a council show. This is it. I'm Josh Gibson, Director of Communications for the DC Council. You may also know me as our voice on social media. And we are joined today, thankfully, by our most frequent ever guest for, this is a little bit of news, our 99th episode of Hearing the Council. And many of those 99 are thanks to Ward 1 Councilmember Brianne Nadeau. Thanks so much for coming back. That's one way of reacting to that comment, I suppose.
Raising the roof.
Oh, raising the roof. I'm totally here for it. That sadly may be the only levity of this episode, because the topic that you've picked for today is dark. Why don't you talk to me about the roundtable you held earlier this week?
Oh, yeah. So this week, the Committee on Public Works and Operations held a public roundtable on potential human rights violations that have occurred in the District of Columbia as our government has cooperated with federal law enforcement. So the goal was to get that human rights lens out there, because the Office of Human Rights is in my committee and the Human Rights Act is in my committee, and to hear from the public. So we had almost 60 witnesses testify. We actually limited the signups. There probably would have been more, but we hit that cap, I think, a couple days after we opened it up. So.
And what I think we all know, but I mean, what has been happening in our city? Put it in your words that has motivated the need for the hearing.
Yeah, so back in August, the president announced a crime emergency here in the District of Columbia. Crime at that time had been down, and continues to be down. But he said that he was gonna, federalize the police force. So he sent in federal law enforcement and National Guard and ICE, which is the enforcement arm of the Department of Homeland Security. They are not law enforcement. They are civil enforcement, but they do take away people's liberty. And they've all been crawling around ever since. And despite the fact that we have a law in the District of Columbia, the Sanctuary Values Act, that prohibits our government from sharing data and cooperating with ICE, we have seen, after an order from the Chief of Police specifying that MPD would do so, we have seen MPD cooperating with ICE and sharing vehicles and going out together and pursuing residents with and without warrants. So it's been a really difficult, scary time, especially for our immigrant families. We have parents and workers and others, entire families being taken and detained in federal detention centers.
And this, anyone who lives in DC knows that there are more police agencies in this city than we can count. We're used to seeing the police cars and saying, oh, I didn't realize the zoo had a police force, and I didn't realize the Postal Service had a police force. So seeing Secret Service, Park Police, seeing vehicles and uniforms from federal police operating in our city is not new to us. But what you're talking about is very new and very disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, what happened in August was folks who have never walked a beat in DC got pulled off their desks and started patrolling with MPD on our streets. So we had DEA ATF, FBI, like the entire alphabet soup of law enforcement agencies. Lately, we've seen the IRS police force. Um, there's a, let's see. Yeah, I mean, all kinds of entities that have just been asked to like walk around our streets and as if they're on a patrol and assist with arrests and traffic stops. And we had, yeah, on Wednesday when the roundtable was going on, we got reports that Metro Transit Police was riding buses with IRS and they were arresting people. It was very strange. Um,
And as I think we're seeing governors sending National Guard, it's sort of the same thing. Federal agencies sending their police force. It's a bit of a competition, a bit of a who can do more, better, stricter, a bit of a competition, it seems like.
yeah. I mean, it feels like uh really dark times. Really dark times. And now other cities are experiencing some of this as well. Chicago, Portland, and I think that DC was kind of a warning for other parts of the country that this administration is going to use every bit of power they have to try to control cities that are ideologically different from them.
Speaking of other cities, you probably saw the same video clip, but to turn to another city's mayor, the mayor of Chicago was asked a question about why he wasn't reporting on illegal aliens. And he said that, quote unquote, that was the question, illegal aliens. And he said, we don't have illegal aliens. I don't know if that's some sort of sci-fi message you're trying to get across. Well, listen, the legal term for my people were slaves. You want me to use that term too? So look, let's just get the language right. We're talking about undocumented individuals that are human beings. The last thing I'm going to do, excuse me, is accept the type of racist, nasty language to describe human beings.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that sort of captures the flavor of why is this happening. Now, a question I think that some people are asking is, the mayor has said repeatedly that her two guiding lights in this chess match with the federal government is maintaining home rule, and the second one is she's always put cooperating with ICE in a different category, and it's something that she has been vocal about being displeased with. Yet, through, as we know from your hearing, examples of cooperation persist. How do you think that can be the case?
I guess it's just not true. I mean, the fact is that nobody has rescinded the order to MPD to cooperate with ICE. That's still there. And we see ICE and MPD, I mean, sharing vehicles, moving around the city together. It's not it's not hypothetical. It's actually happening. And we've seen the testimony this week demonstrated that. I mean, people are terrified. And I think it was last week that I was just coming out of my driveway and I saw two patrol cars and a Homeland Security vehicle driving in a caravan out of a low income property. And I pulled over and asked the neighbors, did you see anything? And they said, no, they were just driving through. Thank God. Like they didn't stop. They didn't detain anyone. But like, why is that happening? Why are these vehicles moving around the city together? It was one thing in the beginning when they were just kind of like shared radio frequencies. So MPD would do a stop, or they would respond to a call, and other federal enforcement agencies would show up because they heard the call on the radio. That's different. It's not great, but it's different than like caravanning around the city or even being in the same vehicle.
Now, to drill down on that a bit, the non-rescinded order was an order by the chief of police, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah.
The chief of police reports to the mayor.
Right.
How can there be any daylight between the thoughts or the guidance of those two individuals?
Well, there isn't. I don't. I also have had conversations with the mayor directly where I've heard her say that ICE is a problem. We need them to get out of town. But then for some reason, MPD is still working with them. But there's only one boss it's in the city, and it's Mayor Bowser, right? Like the chief reports to the mayor, the police report to the mayor.
Right. I mean, the non-rescinded order, an order from the mayor to the chief, would seemingly rescind the
Yeah.
order.
Right.
Um, tell me more about some of the stories that you heard at the hearing from witnesses, or that you've heard offline, because some people might not be comfortable coming to a hearing because of everything we're discussing.
We heard about parents being abducted while taking their children to school. We heard about employees being abducted while on the job out in the community. We heard about illegal searches. We heard about people being taken out of their vehicles and vehicles being left idling in the roadway. We heard about people being taken in front of a school while children were playing on the playground. But these are all stories of neighbors and friends and loved ones who live in our community and work in our community, and they're very painful. The volume of people being taken by immigration enforcement right now is on track to essentially eliminate our undocumented immigrant population completely, because they've taken more than 1,000 people this year already. So that is, I assume, the plan, the master plan of this administration. And surely they can't execute it all across the country, but they seem to be doing it pretty well here in DC.
And families are just having these unfathomable conversations where, I've heard these in my life of, well, what is the least risky way for the child to get to school? Like you said,
Right.
there have been officers now seen on buses. So is bus less risky? National Guard has been in the metro stations a lot. So metro is off the table. Uber, that's not affordable.
Well, also
Walking,
drivers who
you
are
know,
immigrants are getting pulled over.
right. So driver shortage.
Or they could get pulled over while your child is being transported.
True. So then families are debating whether or not they should send their child to school,
Right.
which is just a remarkable, disturbing thing. And obviously violating immigration law is violating a law, but there's no other class of law violations where we're sending out unmarked cars with ununiformed people in them to grab people that violated. I mean, imagine, pick another law, that a law some people might not agree
Well,
with.
and remember, it's a civil infraction, right? It's not a criminal
Right.
offense. And it's ICE is basically a secret police force that's part of the Department of Homeland Security, neither of which existed before the Patriot Act, which was post 9/11, right? So there was a world without ICE, there was a world before ICE. There was Customs and Border Patrol and, Customs and Immigration Services. And what came out of the Patriot Act, which of course was a bipartisan bill passed after the largest terrorist attack in the United States, is this, secret police force, lawless thugs who patrol our streets without an understanding of the laws and civil liberties, and they take away people's civil liberties and freedom. And it's something that every American should be concerned about, and absolutely every Washingtonian, because it's happening to us right now.
And thank you for the correction about the civil infraction, because that is a
Yeah.
distinction. But just imagine if people that had 20 unpaid speeding tickets were being rounded up by people in unmarked cars without uniform.
Yeah.
Or if
Yeah,
people
we'd
that
like
didn't
to
pay
round
their,
them up, but not in unmarked cars.
or if you didn't pay their taxes. I mean, everyone, folks want laws enforced broadly, I think. But there are certain ways you don't.
Well, right.
It's
So
not
like
acceptable.
let's say you don't pay your taxes. So now you've broken the law, right? And that is a criminal offense. But they would issue a warrant and someone would come arrest you, and then you would get a lawyer and you would probably go home by the end of the day while you waited for your trial. You'd surrender your passport and they would let you sit on your couch.
And your
But
rights would
these
be read to
folks,
you, and the
right,
vehicle
exactly.
would be marked, and the uniformed officer would
These are
have a
folks that are
badge,
just being
name and number.
snatched off the street because they're brown.
Right. And we,
And they may not even have warrants.
yeah. And then, right. I mean, it's the famous quote about first they came for this group, and I said nothing because I wasn't in this group. And, then they came
Yeah.
for me and there was no one left. Yeah, we obviously shouldn't tolerate this in this circumstance. We wouldn't tolerate this for any other civil infraction or law violation. It's not acceptable.
Nope.
Um, Now, let's talk a little bit about sort of the inner workings of the council. How did it come that your committee, which does have jurisdiction over the Office of Human Rights, was the one bringing a spotlight to this issue?
Great question. So, the Human Rights Act in the District of Columbia has 23 protected traits, and the Office of Human Rights enforces that here in the District of Columbia. And what we wanted to know with this roundtable have people's human rights been violated here in the District of Columbia during this period of time, either by federal government, local government, or private actors? And is there some right of action that needs to be taken here? Are there complaints that need to be filed? And the conversation was illuminating. Immigration status is not a protected trait. Um, Country of origin is, appearance is. So there are definitely some paths here for pursuing human rights violations. But at the end of the day, most people wanted to come and talk about MPD and their involvement with ICE and other federal law enforcement. And this was the place that they could come to talk because it's the only committee that's held a roundtable on it.
So, in your role as committee chair, as long as the topic of a roundtable is within the purview of your committee, you are able to call a roundtable without
That's
any,
right.
as it should be. I mean, without any approval process.
Yeah, there's also like not super strict rules about roundtables in general, but
Right.
we did have the authority to do this one under the purview of our committee in particular.
And there's no process by which you decide which committee gets first bite of the apple. If two committees have jurisdiction, they both want to hold similar hearings.
Yeah,
They both
just
can
common
proceed
courtesy,
independently.
usually, check to see if someone else wants to. The Judiciary Committee has made pretty clear they weren't going to do one, so we felt rather comfortable moving forward.
And I would think they're actually, I don't know if you're planning any subsequent hearings, but for example, the treatment of encampments, because homelessness is a protected trait, if I'm remembering correctly.
That's right.
So you would be able to potentially have a hearing on that topic at some point if.
Yeah, and we did have some testimony on that. We expected we'd have more, but it was just like it was a quick turnaround. But we did have someone testify about the encampment clearings and how they occurred and what the feds did and what the local government did. And I think many of us do believe that our own local protocols were violated and with the clearings that had happened in Washington Circle and one of our agencies was involved with that. So that is something to follow up on.
Right. Also, traditionally in the scheduling of hearings and roundtables, the executive is invited to send a representative to speak in a prominent role at the committee. And my understanding is that that invitation was issued but not accepted.
That's correct. We invited the director of the Office of Human Rights, and we were told by the Mayor's Office on Policy and Legislative Affairs that they were not planning to send a witness from any agency.
And no, was anyone from law enforcement invited, or because you don't have direct jurisdiction, that's not who they would have sent anyway?
That's correct. I don't have jurisdiction over the law enforcement agencies. And so, and we wanted to frame this around human rights. So that's who we invited. Any member of the executive branch who wanted to speak to the issue would have been welcome, but it was clear that there was nobody they planned to send on any topic.
And was there any effort to try to not have the roundtable happen?
No. It was within the rules of the council, so there was no reason for anybody to protest its occurrence.
Right. And it seems from reading the media, reading social media, that there was a hunger to see something like this happen, a roundtable like this happen, and to get these stories out there in an official context with a permanent legal transcript.
There really was. I had heard from many constituents asking for the council to hold hearings on this issue, and I waited for a little while to see if anybody else would, but I had been thinking really since August that there was a human rights lens for what was occurring in the city, and was glad that I had the opportunity to hold it.
So what comes next? There seems to be cooperation continuing to occur between, we can't control what the federal government does, unfortunately.
Right.
But like you said, we can
Right.
control what the local government does.
Right.
And we should be able to control cooperation. You've shown a light on this. We've seen public statements about it. What comes next? How does this end? Does this end?
It's a good question. The most meaningful thing we could do is update the Sanctuary Values Act to clarify that this level of cooperation is not permitted, because the way the executive order was written, it does thread that needle of what the law does and doesn't prohibit. And I would love to do that. The challenge is that every bill that we pass here in the District of Columbia gets reviewed by Congress because we're not a state. And there's no way that updates to our Sanctuary Values Act would make it through this hostile Congress and across President Trump's desk. And in fact, they might even turn up the heat further on us, although I am not actually sure if that's possible at this point. But it seems infeasible at this moment. But I do think that's ultimately what needs to happen. I was hoping that it would also inspire the mayor to rescind the order or, direct MPD differently, but so far that hasn't happened.
And I believe you're talking about, in a perfect world, trying to strengthen and further clarify sanctuary values legislation. But isn't there a parallel effort, a second effort, because it was written into the budget, to take out the law that was removed by the council? So the law,
Yeah.
And now there's a second run at it, if I'm understanding correctly.
Yeah, I think Congress is trying to attack the sanctuary, like all of the city's sanctuary values laws. And you're right, the mayor did try to rescind it in the Budget Support Act for FY26, but we struck that. So we are in a good position on that at the moment. But there are 14 plus bills in Congress right now attempting to repeal various and sundry laws that we've passed over the years, including this one. So it could happen. Not much of anything's happening right now in Congress,
Right. But
fortunately, unfortunately.
I thought I'd heard about a second effort out of the mayor's office.
Oh, I don't know. It's entirely possible. It's
I thought in the
entirely
last week or so I'd
okay.
seen,
I might have missed it, but
but that may
yeah, I
just be
mean,
an informal, rumors.
yeah, and I guess that would also get referred to the Judiciary Committee, and there's a lot happening there right now in general. So I don't know if that would get a hearing.
Right.
Mm.
Are you, as someone who has kind of brought the spotlight to the issue, are you getting blowback above and beyond the normal, just public official blowback you get on social media as someone who is standing up for this community and trying to draw a line?
No, not really. Interestingly, I thought I would, and I don't welcome it, so I'm not asking for it, but it's been the usual amount of feedback. Um, Nothing more than that, which is fine. I mean, I'm just doing my job, so not trying to create a fuss, but shine a light on things going on in our city through my oversight role.
And have council colleagues been supportive, been, thank God someone finally did this, or why are you, if you stick your head up, it'll get cut off? What are you hearing internally?
Yeah, there were supportive colleagues, there were curious colleagues. I didn't hear from any colleagues who were upset. Um, there's always a lot going on at the council. I think there were two other hearings that day too going on. So, um, I think people trust me to do the work in my committee and you know, they're doing the work in theirs. And sometimes folks show up and contribute and sometimes they don't. So we did have one member join the hearing and ask some questions, which was very helpful. And I know others who were watching it.
So do you have plans for any follow-on hearings on the same topics to continue getting stories to come out, or would it take a really galvanizing event to reconvene?
We don't have any plans to do another hearing on this topic, but we have been hearing from the Office of Human Rights that they have an increase in EEO complaints because the EOC, the federal EOC, is not really taking complaints right now in the same way that they had in the past. And so what that means is that people are filing in the local jurisdiction instead of federal jurisdiction, and there will be an impact on timeliness of cases and caseloads if that continues. And so I think that that is another area that we may explore in our committee, whether it's standalone or in a performance oversight hearing.
And is there an avenue if someone is the victim of one of these, is arrested outside of school, thrown in a car, taken away? Is there an Office of Human Rights administrative outlet or response that they could pursue?
Not towards the federal government. If there are private actors involved, that may be like, say, an employer collaborated or something, or our local government. I mean, that I think does open the door, but
That's the
it
question.
would be, right? So it would be, there have to be very particular circumstances for it to qualify. But I think that it's a big question. I mean, I think there is an opening there.
Gotcha. Well, it's particularly absurd to pivot to the fun round now, but there has to be a fun round because we need to keep living. We can't just be mired in darkness. And since we are recording this interview on Halloween, we're just going to quickly zap through some quick Halloween questions.
Okay.
Favorite Halloween candy?
Reese's peanut butter cups.
I think that's like America's favorite. I think you're right in line.
Can't go wrong unless, yeah, you can't go wrong. I had a kid with a peanut allergy for a little while. She grew out of it. She still has some food allergies, and those are like no joke, but I'm real glad we grew out of the peanut butter.
Yeah. Here. Least favorite Halloween candy?
Like the fruity stuff, like a now and later.
Oh, okay. I'm team.
Yeah.
I'm team fruity flavors, but we'll
Okay,
let
you
it
can
go.
have mine.
We'll let it go. Okay, we'll trade. A memorable costume that you wore as a kid, and/or that your kids have worn.
I had a really adorable clown costume that someone made for me when I was a kid.
Okay,
Um,
photos.
I'll see if I can find them. I was real little. I was probably like 4 or 5. It was adorable. Red and white and blue and yellow and like the pom-pom on the hat and like 3 little pom-poms on the front, like a jumpsuit. It was adorable. And I can't remember if they gave me makeup or not, but I was a sweet little baby. So, okay. My kids these days, I don't know. They always want them from the store and they're kind of schlocky.
Yeah.
I have a kid being a bat this year and a kid being Chase the dog from Paw Patrol.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is Chase, is that the police?
Police dog. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, all right. What age do you think kids should stop trick-or-treating?
Never.
So you can go door to door if you're an 18-year-old a human being.
If you
And
have the moxie, just do it. I mean, it's a
um,
holiday for everyone.
oh, well, the next question was what age should you stop dressing up? And I already know your answer.
Never.
I knew that. And how about scary movies? Are you team scary movies or not so much?
I don't enjoy scary movies. I will say that my household is currently enjoying the Disney series Zombies,
Okay, not
which
familiar.
is, yeah, okay. It's okay. So I can tell you because we just got into it. It's like, it's like High School Musical kind of. Do you remember those? I mean, they're neither of our
Oh,
generation, but yeah. So it's like High School Musical, like high school drama, but with cheerleaders instead of a school musical. And then there's zombies, aliens, and vampires. No, werewolves. It's cute. There's like, lessons about morality and class and race and stereotypes, and it's cute. And there's a lot of singing, so I don't mind it.
so it's more haunted-y theme as opposed to stabby, truly scary theme.
Exactly. And it's mostly fear of unknown, which is, kind of meta. So tonight we're going to watch Zombies 4 after we trick or treat.
Okay, that sounds good. That sounds good. Well, we're out of time. I know you got to go get your kiddos, and it's
Trick or
Halloween.
treat.
We got Halloween stuff to do.
Yeah.
But anyway, once again, I'm super grateful that you do this at all. And listeners, just want to remind you to subscribe to our podcast on SoundCloud or wherever you get your podcasts. Just search under Hearing the Council. Thanks again for tuning in. Thanks for participating. We're on DC Radio at 96.3 on your FM HD4 dial or at dcradio.gov. I'm Josh Gibson. This is not a council hearing. This is Hearing the Council. Happy Halloween, council member.
Happy Halloween.
Take care. Bye.